When he wasn't busy scheming inventive ways to kill millions of people, Adolf Hitler loved watching Disney movies, and he certainly wasn't against some recreational drug use. Everyone knows him from World War II, but there's a lot you don't know about him. Now, it's established that the little dictator with the mustache was evil, but these are some unbelievable facts about Hitler and his crazy life. First, believe it or not, Hitler grew up Catholic, but ended up pointing fingers at the church, accusing it of more bloodshed than any other religion. He couldn't stand Christianity, especially the Pope, but oddly enough, he admired Martin Luther. And if you thought that was unbelievable, you'd be even more shocked at this next one. He was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, in 1939, a Swedish politician thought it'd be funny to do that. Nobody laughed. Instead, it caused a big fuss, and they quickly took back the nomination. Not that Hitler would have wanted it anyway. He had a bit of a grudge against the whole Nobel thing. See, back in 1936, this German journalist Karl von Ossietzky won the Peace Prize, and he wasn't exactly a fan of Hitler. People saw it as a slap in the face to the Nazis and Germany. So Hitler got all huffy and said no German could accept the Nobel Prize. Instead, he made up this German National Prize for Art and Science as a substitute. Now, here's the thing. 3 Germans won Nobel Prizes during Hitler's time, but they had to turn them down. He might have been one of the most terrifying people in history, but he didn't take rejection very well. Oh yeah, for all his pride, Hitler wasn't even originally German. Nope, he was Austrian, born in 1889 in a town called Brno am in part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire at the time. Crazy, right? When he was just a kid, his family moved to Germany, where he picked up the Bavarian dialect. Oh, and that's not even the craziest part. His dad's last name wasn't even Hitler. Alois Hitler was born Alois Schicklgruber, but he ended up taking his stepfather's name, which happened to be Hitler. Apart from heading a massive death spree, Hitler was just like any other guy. He loved cars. When he was locked up in jail back in 1924, he wrote a letter to a Mercedes-Benz dealer asking for a loan to buy one of their fancy limousines. Can you imagine? But even though he loved cars, he never actually learned how to drive one. He said because he didn't want to risk getting into an accident and going back to jail. But he still played a big role in getting the Volkswagen car off the ground. His love life was just as crazy as his passion for cars. The day before Adolf Hitler's death, he married Eva Braun, who also tragically committed suicide alongside him. Forever isn't enough? Try 36 hours. Braun had a long-standing relationship with Hitler and survived 2 previous attempts on her life while being with him. Interestingly, Hitler's first love was a Jewish girl named Stephanie Rabach, who didn't reciprocate his feelings and broke his heart. Some psychologists believe that this unrequited love may have fueled Hitler's deep-seated hatred of Jews. Yikes! Speaking of being strict, Hitler was also a very strict vegetarian. Not to say that that might have fueled the anti-Semitism in him, but reports suggest that his dietary choice led to chronic and unpleasant flatulence issues for him. Oh yeah, and he was hooked on cocaine. Yeah, in the middle of the war, he met a doctor who gave him vitamin shots, but things escalated quickly. Hitler got sick and started popping pills like there was no tomorrow. Following his death, his physician Theodor Morell confessed to administering a variety of drugs to him, including methamphetamine, morphine, and cocaine. In his final days, Hitler had a lot of hand tremors, which some attributed to Parkinson's disease, while others speculated that it may have been the result of all the medications he was given. Now here's a surprising one. Hitler was big on animal welfare. Yeah, you heard that right. He took some measures to make sure animals were treated well. His dog Blondie was practically his furry best friend, even sharing his bed in the Führer bunker. Pretty sweet, huh? To step it up, the Nazi regime cracked down on hunting and even sent folks who mistreated animals to concentration camps. Yeah, they were serious about it, even setting guidelines on how to properly transport animals. Kinda hard to process considering everything else going on at the time. Oh yeah, he was big on respect for women and family values. Well, at least Aryan ones anyway. Now let's look at Hitler's family life and school days. So before Hitler's dad Alois married his mom Clara, he'd been married twice. But when he got together with Clara, they had 6 kids, including Adolf and his younger sister Paula. Most of his siblings died when he was young. Now about school, Adolf didn't exactly have a great time there. His dad sent him to a school he didn't like, and he wasn't exactly a teacher's pet. He ended up getting bad grades and even got into fights with both his teachers and his dad. And unfortunately, his dad wasn't exactly the gentle type. He'd give Adolf beatings pretty often. Tough times for young Adolf, for sure. But believe it or not, this ruthless dictator was a huge movie buff, especially after a long day of doing, well, dictator stuff. He'd kick back and binge-watch Hollywood classics like King Kong and Snow White, although in his mind, he probably saw it as Snow Aryan White, and he couldn't get enough of Laurel and Hardy's hilarious antics. But he was also a fan of Mickey Mouse. Yep, after a tough day of, coordinating destruction and some, not-so-nice activities, he'd unwind by organizing movie nights with his pals, staying up late into the night. He'd enjoy Disney films and favored Dutch actor Johannes Heesters, who performed during the Nazi era. How many people know this, but Hitler had a serious sweet tooth. He couldn't resist cakes, eclairs, and all sorts of creamy desserts, indulging in them all day long. His chef whipped up personalized treats complete with swastika decorations. Some days he'd go through a whole kilogram of chocolate pralines. Not exactly the healthiest diet, especially when mixed with all those prescription drugs he was on. Hitler claimed the sweets were the best way to calm his nerves, especially as the war he started raged on. Also, he was filthy rich, like billionaire rich. So how did he get all that cash? Well, he wasn't exactly shy about dipping into government funds and getting cozy with big corporations. But he got pretty creative with his money-making schemes. Like he made the government buy loads of copies of his books, Mein Kampf, to give as wedding gifts, and it raked in some serious royalties for him. Oh, and he straight up refused to pay income tax. With all that money, estimated to be around $5 billion, he went on a spending spree. He splurged on fancy art and luxury furnishings, and even snatched up a bunch of properties. But after the war, his stash ended up in Bavaria's hands. Alright, let's talk about whether Hitler was the worst boss ever or not. Now, we all know he's got a pretty bad rap, but hear me out. When it comes to comparing him to Stalin, Hitler might not have been as ruthless. If you messed up under Stalin's watch, you'd probably end up in a ditch. But with Hitler, he mostly just fired his generals instead of straight up executing them by the masses. Not exactly employer of the month material. It could have been worse though, right? But what about his nephew? Yeah, his flesh and blood, William Patrick Hitler, ended up serving in the US Navy from 44 to 47. Some seriously awkward family dynamics. But before he bolted to the US, he blackmailed his uncle for years, threatening to spill some juicy family secrets to the press. He eventually changed his name to William Stewart Houston, which sounds more fitting given the circumstances. That's all for the most unbelievable facts about Hitler. Thanks for tuning in, and if you want to catch more awesome content like this, make sure to click on the next video.